So this episode of Monday Night Raw here tonight was definitely better than the past few weeks that we've received as far as Monday Night Raw. But still, it still feels like we're missing something on the road to WrestleMania. Here we had CM Punk and Roman Reigns have their second exchange back and forth. We had a new Intercontinental Champion with Penta defeating Dominic Mysterio and what was, I think, his second defense in about 100 days or so, which is fucking bananas, fucking wild to even think about. We had Seth Rollins return back to Monday Night Raw and take out Paul Heyman. We had AJ Lee here, essentially make an open challenge to every single woman in the backstage area. We had so much going on here, but again, this was a good episode of Raw. But not the greatest, not the worst, just kind of in the middle, which I feel like for WrestleMania season is not very good because you have to, stop playing it safe, so to speak. And that's something Triple H is sorely lacking is the balls, right? The balls to go all out with this WrestleMania build, which is something he needs to do. But regardless, we kicked off the show here actually relatively hot with the return of Seth Rollins. We had The Vision, Paul Heyman, Austin Theory, and Logan Paul come out and address Seth Rollins. We had a plethora of masked men come out here to cause a distraction, eventually having Seth Rollins face to face in the ring with Paul Heyman. He hits him with the steel chair. He gives him a stomp. He causes him to bleed. And eventually Paul Heyman is taken into an ambulance and carted off by LA Knight. I posed this question to myself earlier. I said, now that Seth is back, what is the given direction for Seth Rollins? Is he going to face Logan Paul once again at WrestleMania? Is he going to face potentially Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania because there still is that loose affiliation with Brock Lesnar and the Vision? Or do we get Braun Breaker back in time to challenge Seth? Because I sorely kind of hope that at the very least we have that. But other than that, this was a great open, and it was followed by a great Gunther and Dragon Lee match. I think after this match, I think it's starting to become a little bit evident or a little bit clearer what the direction possibly is for Gunther. Because at the end of this match, Gunther pulled Dragon Lee's mask off, and that caused him to submit. And Gunther, he disrespected the quote-unquote Lucha Libre traditions here by, taking off Dragon Lee's mask. And I feel that eventually this is probably going to lead to Gunther against Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 42. I don't know if this is going to be a retirement match per se for Rey Mysterio. I don't believe that that's going to necessarily be the result of that. But I think we're probably a lot clearer or a lot closer to that outcome, Gunther against Rey Mysterio. We also had the return of Jey Uso after a 4-day vacation by him. He was taken out prior to Elimination Chamber and literally returned just like that. I don't really know I don't even know if they're going to explain his absence or what even happened as far as who took him out. But there he was. We also had Rhea Ripley address Jade Cargill. There's been a lot made of this within the last 24 hours. Because if you don't know, there's been an ongoing sort of beef between Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley, and this has people potentially doubting the kayfabe nature of this whole thing. People, legitimately think that these two hate each other, legitimately think that this is a shoot. There's been a lot of things said on Twitter. Whether or not it's a shoot or a work per se, I think that they desperately need to do something to entice the crowd on this Rhea Jade feud, because Rhea Jade by itself as a match, it's going to be something that could either be hit or miss, and definitely that's what they need to do here as far as entice the people to actually give a shit about Jade and Rhea. We also had AJ Lee here essentially make an open challenge for any single woman on the roster when it comes to her Intercontinental Championship. I'm not a big fan of the open challenge now, simply because I feel like we get it every single week, especially with like Brock Lesnar came out 2 weeks ago and made an open challenge. But this, I feel like we at the very least have a possibility to at the very least get something different than what we've had between Becky and AJ. I feel like at this point, this is a perfect opportunity for AJ to step in the ring with somebody potentially like an Io Sky or a Roxanne Perez if Roxanne is back in time to face AJ at WrestleMania. We also had Penta defeat Dominic Mysterio here. I was kind of, up in arms as far as what they were going to do here between Dominic and Penta because these two guys they've wrestled each other a numerous amount of times in the past. This was for the Intercontinental Championship. There was a weird little statistic that Michael Cole, gave out that ever since he won back the title against John Cena at Survivor Series in November, this was either his first or his second defense of the IC title for Dominic Mysterio, which is kind of fucking crazy. Again, part of that is also Dominic was injured for a good amount of time. I think within December or so. But still, I still don't fully. Like, I still believe that WWE would have had him gone the whole, time as well, not defending the IC title. But this was the championship match here, Penta against Dominic. We had the Judgment Day, JD, and Finn Balor out there to kind of support Dominic. Eventually, though, at the end, the finish was Dominic was asking JD and Finn to get him the hammer from the ringside area. JD got up to give him the hammer, but Finn stepped in and told him that, Dominic wanted to do this by himself, so let him do this by himself. This gave Penta the opportunity to swing in and get the win against Dominic Mysterio. So now Penta is the new Intercontinental Champion. Dominic Mysterio just took the L. And now this kind of furthers the Dominic Finn thing for WrestleMania, which I desperately hope that we get because they've been teasing this for damn near 2 years now. So at the very least, I want this to be over at WrestleMania. That way we could move on to other things. But officially now Penta is the new IC champion. What he does going into WrestleMania, who knows? I hate to throw out the multi-man match option because I feel like that's just kind of lazy method. But they certainly could do something like that. A 6-man, ladder match for the IC title. Take everybody who's not being used on Raw and kind of use them in there. But again, we'll see what he does at WrestleMania. And after that, we had the main event segment, which was between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. This was their second face-to-face. There was a lot of jabs here thrown in between both men, mentioning the past with The Shield, how they were in Indianapolis and how they debuted here, how, Roman Reigns mentions that CM Punk was only brought back to entice the 30, 40-year-old virgins on the internet. And jabs like this that were made here throughout the segment. But at the end of this segment, CM Punk ended it off by saying that, at WrestleMania 42, he's going to bury Roman Reigns. Bury Roman Reigns next to his father. And that was the mic drop of the night. CM Punk heads back up the ramp as Roman Reigns stays there, sort of in shock and disbelief, I guess you could say. And this was sort of one-on-one in pace because the first time these two guys, squared off verbally, Roman Reigns got the advantage there. Now this time, CM Punk gets the advantage over Roman Reigns. This is the only portion of the show that feels WrestleMania worthy. That feels like we're actually forwarding a story to WrestleMania, which is something, like I mentioned, that they have to start doing because this WrestleMania season, this WrestleMania build hasn't been up to par with even last year's build. So I don't really know what the play is. Now, as far as CM Punk and Roman Reigns, who wins that match, it's too early to say. But I think, if I'm playing devil's advocate, Roman Reigns has lost consistently since WrestleMania 40, right? He lost to Bronson Reed. He lost to Solo Sikoa. He lost the Royal Rumble back in 2025. So he's lost a lot of things, right? He lost at the main event of WrestleMania 41. So I won't put it past WWE to crown Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 42 the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I just don't put it past them, especially considering the fact that Roman Reigns, his contract is up sometime in April. So that would, you know what I mean? Like that would be a nice, enticing sort of, dangling carrot here on top of Roman Reigns, like saying like, hey, if you want to resign, here's what we'll give you, So I don't know if it's too early to call, but that's kind of my mindset of what I think they could potentially do at WrestleMania. But post your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of tonight's episode of Raw. And until next time, I will see all of you on the next one.